fabulous to come on up and join me on the stage and get in one of these comfortable chairs. Hopefully they're not too comfortable so you fall asleep, you know, we don't want that. I'll take this one, you guys take this. So my name is Blake Emery. I'm the Director of Differentiation Strategy for Boeing Commercial Airplanes, and the conference has put together a really exciting panel, so we'll have a lively conversation. As people are talking, if you think of a good question you'd like to ask yourself, that would be good. You may or may not get to ask it, but it would be good to think about it anyway. So to begin, I'm going to ask each of the panelists here to please introduce themselves, tell us, you know, what airline they're from, what you do with that airline, and also please tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not working for your airline. What do you do for fun and hobby? Just tell us a little something about that too. And there's some microphones for.
Okay, I will start. Good afternoon, our friends who are attending the Vietnam International Aviation Expo. My name is Buradi. I'm working for Line Air Group. Currently, actually, we are handling or we're running five different airlines, namely Lion Air, Batik, Wing, Thailand, and Malibu Air. I've been in the group for the past running 12 years. Good afternoon, Gawati. And I'm in charge of the corporate marketing and global branding. Because airline business is too much stressful, challenging, and is considered a high-profile business, but low profit. So to kill my idle time, I'm doing some traveling. Golf is my priority. We can play something together, and family vacation.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Benji Giboneo. I'm with Philippine Airlines. Hi to everyone. I'm from IT services, but I speak both commercial, business, and IT. I have been working with the airline for 22 years. I started with airport operations for 2 years, so I know how this booth here operate in terms of the equipment. And I moved back to IT services for 6 years, then to business for e-commerce for another 8, and back in IT. Generally, in IT services, we have 5 departments we're in. We are tied with different business areas of the organization. So from our side, I handle most of the projects that's run through the commercial. That includes sales, marketing, revenue management, customer experience, ancillary business, including external affairs and partnership. So all the projects that we have day in, day out, we're managing everything, including running 50 live applications. So I'm married, and most of the time when I'm out of the office, I generally stay at home and have my time with my wife and my 3 girls. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. My name is Rohit Kumar, and I work with VIAexpo. I'm the Director of Financial Planning and Analysis. And yeah, my work basically involves doing all the cost analysis, the revenue analysis, finding out where we're making money, we're losing money, and what next to do. So I'm probably the thorn in the whole organization because I'm the guy who's always asked difficult questions. But that's my job. Probably, I mean, I look the oldest, but I'm probably the youngest in terms of the experience. I'm just about 40 years of experience in aviation compared to the
No, I got you beat. I look the oldest.
And yeah, prior to this one, key areas have been strategy. I was heading the aviation practice back in India in the aviation consulting business. So strategy has been an area of focus for me for a long time. And yeah, it's been fantastic 6 months here. I just moved about 6 months back. So yeah, it's a very good life. what do I do apart from the job? Well, actually, in India it was a little bit more tough to figure out what to do in life. It was better to just go home and sleep. But yeah, here there are a lot of opportunities. You start playing tennis, spend more time with my family. So yeah, Vietnam is a pretty good place.
Very
Thanks.
good.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, before we get into strategy and differentiation strategy, one of the things we've heard this week at the conference, people have been sharing, kind of the trends and the market trends, and definitely this region, and especially Vietnam, is really growing like crazy as far as the fleet size and the RPKs and the traffic and everything is really expect to even quadruple by 2038. So my first question is for each of your airlines. What are your plans, to the extent you can share them? What are your plans to capitalize and take advantage of the growth that's expected?
Can I share? I'm trying. Okay. Land air growth in the domestic market has been dominating for the past 12 years. Out of the 19 years operation since we are first flying in the domestic market, and our market share now is about 42%. So we can say the domestic market already is congested. Then we are learning to expand to other regional countries, like Thailand and Vietnam, and also other Asian countries. But so far, actually, we avoid going to the Europe and UK because we know our capability. We need to growing or upgrading our knowledge to the international market. But yes, this Vietnam market for me actually is quite amazing because my first time to come to Vietnam, I actually see the volume of the tourists coming in yesterday. I think it's quite packed, and I think it's a good business for us, especially flying the LCC market here. And then the reason why we are going to expanding because we have a contract with you, right? If we can just terminate the contract, then that can be better, right? Can we? Cannot, right? So we are still committed to have more aircraft coming in. Then this market for us in Indonesia is quite packed already. So we are trying to fly more to India, to China, and eventually to Vietnam and Thailand.
Very good, thank you.
Philippine Airlines has been flying the skies for over 7 decades. And we fly to North America, to Europe, to Asia Pacific, and of course Australia. Largely our traffic is domestic. We have been flying in Vietnam mid-1980s, but we just recently added our flight 4 times weekly to Hanoi last March. So our executives determines that there is good market in Vietnam. That's the reason why we have expanded our operations to Hanoi. Although it's a modest start because it's just a 4 times weekly flight between Manila and Hanoi. But I think in the future it will still come.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people anyways know about VIAjet much more than I know. But it's very interesting to get this perspective just to start off with. Because you're talking about the market coming into Vietnam. And in VIAjet, we started about end of 2011. And in 8 years, we are more than 40% market share and the leader in the domestic market. From our perspective, I think we are really looking at the international market. Not just because as an avenue of growth, because we see a huge opportunity in what the intra-ASEAN market has as a comparable to an intra-EU market. If you look at the intra-EU market, they have a population of about 550 million people, and that is being serviced by just this population is being serviced by a dedicated fleet of about 1,200 aircraft, which operate and support this kind of population. And if you look at the intra-ASEAN market, you've got about 660 million people. And the dedicated fleet which operates this market is less than 500. So the scope in terms of what you have, if you keep aside the fact that yes, there are political borders, but economically they're trying to work together. The economical barriers are coming down. You want more and more trade to be done. The intra-ASEAN region is really where the big market is. And from our perspective, we are looking to be, a top 3 player in the overall intra-ASEAN market. So we will continue our focus on the domestic market, and we have delivered that time and again. But I think the real huge scope of growth is to take Vietnam as a large part of the whole. Look at intra-ASEAN as one single country rather than just try to look at Vietnam. So that's what we are looking at.
All right, very good. Why don't you go ahead and give the mic over there to Benji, so that you don't always have to go first. We'll rotate a little bit here. So let's go ahead and get into the topic of differentiation strategy. So to the extent you can share, what is each of your strategies for differentiating yourselves from your competition, and who do you see as your major competition?
Okay, before we move into how we identify ourselves and differentiate ourselves with the rest of our competitors, we're trying to learn how the market is, who our market, and try to identify what makes them happy. So we are always running some sort of survey trying to understand what gives higher NPS or CSAT as far as customer experience is concerned. And we have seen that the top 45% would say that staff engagement is #1. So that's a total customer experience between the Philippine Airlines employees and our customers. From all touch points, say reservations agent, ticket offices, our lounge administrator, our flight attendants, employees at the back office, contact center operators. And largely, of course, people would come back to you if they are happy with the service. Second, and that we have identified, is that people is really keen on having on-time performance. And 25% of our customers says that they are happy with the airline because of the on-time performance. And the third with cabin and aircraft. So let's go up with staff. We have been trying to improve our customer service in terms of engaging more with the customers, especially for in-flight. Because people come back to you because they love the service, and employees represents the brand of Philippine. So that's the reason why we have been going through all of our ticket offices and contact center and trying to portray what Philippine brand is, the Philippine Airlines brand. Because it's what a brand that we want to portray to our customers, because customers come back to the brand because of the engagement that they experience with us. With the on-time performance, we are working with the government agencies because, of course, probably some of you would know that the runway limitation that we have in Manila. Actually, most of the airlines have moved some of the operations to Clark International Airport because of the capacity limitation in Manila. And hardly there is impact also with on-time performance. But with the engagement that we have with the government agencies, we're trying to improve not just Philippine Airlines, but other local players in the Philippines and in Manila and Clark. And in October, we were able to achieve 92% on-time performance for Philippine Airlines. And that's a large improvement from 82 for the past three months. And for the final, it's more on aircraft. Of course, we fly domestically and it should just be a short 50 or an hour flight. And of course, we have to differentiate ourselves with LCCs. So it's really putting an impression of what the Philippine Airlines brand. We fly the likes of the national carriers in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Vietnam, and of course, it's more about how a national carrier should portray itself to the public.
Before we hear about the differentiation strategies of the other two, I've got a couple of follow-on questions, if you don't mind. So you talk about, the Philippine brand and how a national carrier, really wants to manifest itself in the market. What kind of steps did you and Philippine Airlines take to figure out what that portrayal should be? What did you do to get to that step?
Okay, we have defined a desired customer experience. We run through workshops with different parts of the organization, try to understand what type of attitude we should imbibe internally as employees of Philippine Airlines, and what brand we should put as a face for Philippine Airlines. We have this buong puso alaga. It's a whole heart service to the Filipino. So it's like a portrayal of the Filipino culture, not just for the Filipino market, but for the international travelers.
All right, very good, thank you.
Okay, this question is quite different from our case in Indonesia. Probably we are just lucky, can say so. 5 or 10 years ago, actually, there has been a price war, the ticket price war between this all ACC and full service also. And all of them actually your customers, right? Because purchasing a fleet from you. But starting last year, 2018, actually many of the airliners went out of the business. And I believe that this last couple of months, you also know there's another group that they have to merge with Garuda because of the financial problem. So we can say starting January 2019, the price war is almost over. But it is a relief from us. Well, we are struggling. We are not saying that we are in healthy condition, we're also struggling, but we are the one surviving. And we are pretty much luckier, I can say so. Then because of this impact, the price ticket has no longer been cheap. So it's going up almost twice in the domestic market, and also starting January this year, actually we waive our free baggage allowance. So you have to prepay on the website, or you have to purchase on the check counter. That will cost you about 30% more expensive. The reason why we are surviving, I think firstly we are lucky, and second thing we are hardworking. You see my hair from black turning to gray. That is one of the indication. Because we are the privately owned enterprise now, the only one in Indonesia, we cannot fail to pay our collection in time. The other one is a government-owned enterprise. That will be different case. So we are trying our very best to maintain our business at a very efficient workforce that we could have. Then I think the main reason of Land Air Group is able to grow and survive until this stage after 19 years, because it is the business situation from the owner. He has a very powerful business situation that is quite rare in most people. But we also understand our weaknesses, that this business solution is not really coming parallel with our technological transformation. That's why we are learning in some countries, some seminar, that we need to catch up this weakness, I can say so, to improve our technological transformation. to catch up with this business. Because why? Because if you are going to the regional, the traditional behavior, the serving attitude, the customer engagement will not be the same as if you are serving the local market. And that's the main challenge for us. And we are not too big, I think, and we are trying to survive. That's why we try to now centralize every technological system into one big bowl that will have the channel, distribution, that we can have a better control and more efficient analysis. I think so. So in that, we are pretty much lucky.
All right, thank you. Tell us about your differentiation strategy.
Sure. So I think typically when you hear about the low-cost carriers, the point always is that they're least customer-centric and other things. But I think one of the things that's happened at VIAgen is the fact that we started late, 2011 end. There were a lot of learnings that were available from markets where in the Asia Pacific side, low-cost carriers had started, had functioned, and had faced challenges. So from our perspective, we have a very clear-cut picture in terms of how we are about to make ourselves differentiate. Number one, we are still going to be the lowest cost airline, which gets translated into the low fare. And number two, we are going to be a customer-centric airline. Now I know these 2 points are sometimes difficult to really come together because customer-centric drives investments.
There's definitely tension there.
Yeah. So, but the way we invest in it is, we look at customer-centric from, as you rightly said, from an engagement perspective, with the objective of or actually converting our investments in such kind of engagements into ancillary revenue, rather than the ticket fare. We are focused on investments which are going to create an add-on product for the customer, where I'm able to receive a quick feedback whether he liked my engagement, whether he liked what I produced and the way I presented, by either picking the product or deciding not to pick up the product. So I have a very quick understanding, feedback mechanism to understand whether the customer is actually liking what I'm preparing and serving. Seat, commodity as a single fare is available.
And how does this feedback come back to you?
So the feedback immediately comes back just from the perspective of, in terms of the sales by itself. So when we create new products, like for example, we have a Skyboss product. Now a Skyboss product that we have created in VIAgen, it was very focused on saying, we are giving you the basic fare, but then we want to take care of you in terms of if you want a lounge, if you want a meal on board, you pay these extra charges.
So you can basically tell what's popular just based on what people buy.
Correct. And again, that's 2 mechanisms. Number one is what they are buying, and number 2, how am I presenting it? If a product suddenly changes its trend, just very similar to a commodity market, right? So if suddenly a product changes its trend, which was selling like a hot cake till yesterday, but today people are not picking it up, I know either I've not presented the product right or I've not done it. Yes. So from our point of view, we look at the investments in technology and customer centric from the perspective that it should get translated into an ancillary revenue. That's a clear cut for us. And on the other side is the promise that we have to our customer, which is we will constantly provide them the best fares available in the market, because I think in the low cost model, as someone recently said, that the best loyalty program is low fares. I mean, there's no other better loyalty program than that. So I think that's the way we have differentiated ourselves.
Okay, well this is really fun because we have 3 airlines represented and 3 very different approaches to the differentiation strategy. So that's really cool. Why don't you keep the mic because you're going to go first this time. So this question kind of got a couple of questions, and so each of you can kind of handle it the way you want. So one aspect of it is, so you've all presented your strategies, and they all make really great sense given the context that you're in and the markets you're in. couple of questions and you can answer one or both of them. First of all, if it's, how did you arrive at this strategy? And secondly, how is it that you know if your strategy is working? What kind of metrics do you use? I mean, you mentioned, you know, the sales of different items for one thing, but how is it that what are the metrics that you use to tell yourself or teach yourself that your strategy is working, or, you know, how do you know when it's kind of going off the rails and not working?
I mean, how did the strategy come about? I think that was that was an output of what the market was at that point of time. There was an opportunity for a strong low-cost carrier in the market at that point of time. There was an opportunity to create a customer-centric airline. And I think that's where it basically just took off, because you saw an opportunity and it just took off. In terms of when you say how do we measure it, as I said before, one of the things is obviously having a very clear-cut dollar value attached to it, and I think for a low-cost operations it's extremely important that you are able to account for every single investment that you do from a dollar perspective, for us, ancillary revenue is an example of that. And just to give you some numbers, we are at 29% of our total revenue is now ancillary revenue. 29%, which puts us almost in the second position in the Asia Pacific market. And we continue to grow that. Now, from our perspective, we not only look at just the ancillary revenue, we also look at how is that ancillary revenue being produced. And for that, we generally use a lot of cross-industry examples. So, for example, if you look at Amazon, if you look at Alibaba, there are a lot of learnings that you can get from them in terms of how they are able to create packaged products to increase the average transaction value. And that's the way we look at it, that we need to create multiple mechanisms to create better combination of products to offer to our customer. A customer, let's say, and this becomes...
Do you do any bundling for these?
That's right. And this is generally done even to the level of the routes that we are operating. So, for example, let's say we are operating into China. So, there's already a study that has been done at the back end to say, okay, with the Chinese flights that we're going to be operating into China, what is the kind of bundling do we need? Do we need to take lounge plus a food plus seat? Do we need a food plus seat, a food, then which one should we choose? And this is the combination that we keep working on back to back in order to see how much am I increasing my ATV, because a lot of times it's not just the end result in terms of how much is the revenue total, but we are constantly focused on increasing our ancillary revenue per passenger. So the ATV has to go up and the total revenue has to go up.
How long do you keep, say, I mean, let's take a bundle, for example, into a market. How long do you keep that particular bundle in place before you make a determination to adjust it?
So generally, I mean, if the product just doesn't at all pick up, even after a lot of marketing campaigns, then obviously it's about a 3-month shelf time. But majorly what we've seen is we are able to keep the product going at least for a year. And at times we also purposely change it to just bring a feel of newness. So it's constantly something.
So even if it's not indicated, you may change it up just to see what happens.
Exactly. So that's how we work it.
All right. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Okay, so the challenge really, if your competition is LCC and you're running a national carrier model, is that how do you sell a fare and how would you tell the customers the difference? So Philippine Airlines is not selling fares, we're selling an experience, and this is one of the items that we're trying to strengthen. That when you board a PAL aircraft, the experience is different from boarding someone else's aircraft, particularly for LCC. Of course, we have competitions like Cathay Pacific, Singapore Airlines, and the rest of the national carriers. But of course, majority of our traffic is in the domestic, and each where the price sensitivity is. If you sell a 2,000 peso flight between Manila and Cebu, for example, then how would you convey to the customer, you take the 2,000 on Philippine Airlines because the experience is different? So far, we have improved, just like what I mentioned earlier, we have improved all the areas of the services that we have, including inflict amenities. Of course, the national carriers have entertainment, they have this mood lighting, they have internet Wi-Fi. And of course, probably LCCs would have the same investment. But what will a 2,000 peso bring to the customer? It's not just riding a plane, it's a total experience that we're selling. So in terms of how do we measure whether the differentiator is working for Philippine Airlines, is of course the return of all these marketing efforts that we are doing, because we're trying to give customers an idea what a 2,000 peso on Philippine Airlines versus a 1,800 on a competitor. Because you have to really put into the phase wherein what's the 200 peso difference and what's the reason why customer should take your product. In terms of service, I would say that there's much improvement in how we're doing things today at Philippine Airlines. And we can measure that using our CSAT and NPS score, which steadily increases.
You mentioned the NPS before. For those of you who don't know, that's the Net Promoter Score. And it seems to be fairly popular among airlines, and it's worked well for you to be a metric and determine what's working and not working.
That's correct. We are tracking it month on month, and so we are seeing progress for which areas we need improvement and which area we need to strengthen.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, from my side, actually, we have a different approach to implement our strategy. We can say.
I'm sorry, on this stage, there's only one approach.
Okay, I will choose the. I still want to mention about two approaches, but I will make it quick. I will mention from the fleet approaches.
We'll give you all the time you need.
Okay,
It's good.
So, we understand that we have contract with all our principals to bring in 2 or 3 aircraft monthly. And we see that Indonesia is an archipelago base. And we know that this mining and oil and gas plantation industry moved from Sumatra, Java to East Kalimantan on Sulawesi, those to Papua area. That's why we capitalize our fleet maximization to those small cities. I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the city of Morowali, with the Timika, maybe you understand that one. And this you'll be surprised because, for example, we are flying with the ATR, it's a 72 seat. Out of the 70 seats, 50 seats mainland China, flying inbound and outbound from the area. So we are maximizing our fleet to those areas, and we make sure all documentation completed, and we are just the only airlines fly to those areas. So we give very limited option to passengers. If you want to go to the area, they must be flying with the Wings Air. Okay, that's option from our fleet and from this one archipelago. The other one we see from the passengers volume and the behavior. We noticed that as a LCC, how low can you go? We cannot go further. If we go further, our salary is not paid, So we see that e-commerce is actually booming, and this actually need the cargo fleet and need more slot allotment to carry this all package to very further areas. And then we make a big decision. For land air, it's becoming all full LCC, no more baggage allowance. From 20 kg go to 0. Actually, before we did that, we made a conclusion with the other airlines. I want to mention, we agreed to do so, but the other 2 airlines, they back off. But we are not. We are doing that one, all of a sudden, 20 kg no more. That's a quite drastic decision, and for the first 1 or 2 months, there's the chaos about how heavy passengers can carry, the check-in luggage, Then they have their own definition, one hand carry baggage, one laptop, the other one is a backpack, it's a little bit else. But after some months later, they are studying, they're learning to understand that it is a full SEC. If you want, then you have to buy it from the website for the max allowance, because you're understanding they are flying to those areas, they are also trading. You see, our approach is more on the business intuition. Then, along the process, I think proven that carrying the cargo is much more profitable rather than carrying the passengers. You see, one passenger, for example, is a 50 kg, 50 and we are 70 probably, yeah? Maybe Megawatt is a 40 something, 45. You are flying, one ticket LCC is about 50 to 60 baht. If you are assuming it's a cargo, you can get to up to 100 baht. And the revenue is good for us to survive the business. The other example, the second approach is from the passengers. We noticed Bali Island these few years that mainland China are already surpassing the Australian coming to Bali. And it's growing every year. Then our owner said, why Bali? We want to actually set up a new tourist destination in the East Indonesia. So we choose between the Manado and Makassar. And you see again, this business situation is important. Considering the infrastructure, considering the people behavior over there, considering the religion base, so we choose Manado. It's a direct hub, flying the mainland China from Xiamen, from Chongqing, from the Henan direct to Manado. From zero, I think after 2 years, we are bringing about 10,000 packs every month. And not only that one, not only the people, we are also actually developing a local business. It's an SME, it's also actually growing, and also other culinary also developing. So we are doing this kind of approach, but a little bit retarded from the technology. So technology is trying to catch up. By having this kind of business intuition, and we believe that it is always the tool to be moving on, that's the way actually we drive our business to get the growth and the revenue.
All right, fascinating, very cool. Now this next question, it might be a little tough, and you might not even want to answer it, but it can still be very illuminating. If you have an example of a strategy or an aspect of your strategy that you tried, but it didn't work, what did you learn from that, and what did you do as a result of that? And it might be hard to think of that on the spot, but if you've got something, we'll take it.
Probably at some point there was like a decision from management, how do we operate as a brand? Because of course, Philippine Airlines also has a subsidiary, we call it VIAexpo. This is supposedly the low-cost brand of Philippine Airlines to match with the LCCs. But over time, I was shared with him earlier, there was quite some sort of a confusion probably as part of for the customers of what we're trying to portray. Because who is Philippine Airlines in the eyes of the customers? Is it a national carrier, a full-service carrier, or a low-cost? Probably there are advantages and disadvantages of that. But having said so, over time, there was always a question how Philippine Airlines would operate. Is it a national carrier or low-cost brand? So it was decided, I think 3 years ago, that we operate as one brand, maintaining Philippine Airlines' brand for both Philippine Airlines and VIAexpo, and you will hardly see VIAexpo in how we sell the products today. People see both brands as Philippine Airlines, so we have aligned everything from cabin interiors to in-flight amenities to the cabin uniform. So you will see only one brand. And I think it's working as far as the customer is concerned, because if they buy Philippine Airlines, they see just one. Philippine Airlines.
What kinds of things do you do to create a consistency? Because you want one Philippine Airlines. What kinds of things do you do to create that consistency with the service that the crew is providing?
It has taken quite some time to make that and portray that one brand because, of course, there are different cultures between the two organizations. But at some point, it took like learning from each other what areas we should imbibe as one carrier. And of course, there's a lot of training, sharing of information between the two carriers and how we portray ourselves. There are changes in the company interiors. There's changes in in-flight services just to align everything. For some point, there was a question also whether working as with the two models, like one national carrier and one low cost, because some companies have the same situation as us, but probably the question would be, is it working for other carriers? And I think they are, but at some point it's a question whether you would choose one brand or you would choose National Plus LCC.
Very good, thank you. Either of you two have an example you want to share, or you're not forced? I can always move on to something else. You know?
Yeah. The reason why this question is difficult is because two things. Number one, I'm pretty new to the company yet. But the second, I think as one of the points that you were saying, I think a lot of times these strategy challenges come up when the airline has matured to a certain level where such questions are asked. I think we're still far away from that as an operations, and the only other thing is we sort of have an internal motto within the company that nothing is wrong. We just need to know how to make it right. So the whole effort, if something happens, the effort of the whole team is to figure out how to make it right rather than accept that.
Very good, very good. Well said. Well, should we see if anyone in the audience has a question for you guys? So we do. Did anyone from this illustrious audience come up with any brilliant questions? If you didn't come up with a brilliant question, we'll just take any kind of question. So, any brave souls? Oh yes.
Vấn đề tôi đề cập là hàng không dân sự nên hỗ trợ trong vấn đề trí tuệ nhân tạo, tức là lưu thông trên mặt đất thì sử dụng camera hành trình. Hình như cái hộp đen của máy bay nó không có hình ảnh, không có hình ảnh mặt đất, nên nâng cấp cho hộp đen cái hình ảnh camera hành trình. Tại vì nếu có tai nạn hay có phá hoại, mình sẽ phát hiện cái nơi nào bắn quả tiễn lên. Tại vì hàng không dân sự rất dễ bị khủng bố. Nhờ đó mình phát hiện nơi nào là cháy rừng, và nơi nào là có biến đổi khí hậu, khảo sát biến đổi khí hậu. Trong phạm vi quốc gia, cái dữ liệu này là dữ liệu trí tuệ nhân tạo, để quốc gia nó có thể quản lý được rừng, quản lý được môi trường, thay vì dùng vệ tinh. Tức là hàng không có thể thay thế vệ tinh để làm cái việc nhiệm vụ đó.
There was a lot there. There's more than one question. Maybe you can choose one, and if any one of you would like to respond to one of those questions.
Could you tell us what the questions are?
What's that?
Could you tell us what the questions are?
Probably not. But thanks for asking. There was a lot there, and it'd be lost in translation. But anyone?
Yeah, so let me help you with the questions. Very interesting question. Question was, why can't we have the ability to record images or videos inside the aircraft, especially during times of accidents? Today, black box does capture the technical data, but why can't we capture this? Number one. Number two, which was again a very interesting thought. Why can't we use the aircraft? They're operating in the sky, right? So what if the aircraft were externally fitted with cameras or something, which could then help replace satellite imaging? Because you would be able to provide much more live updates at a much frequent interval. It was pretty impressive. So these were the two questions from his side.
So we've got time for one answer.
There is a difficult technical question. I would like to answer only one question. The rest I will leave it to my friends. Let me share to us a little bit, not in details, the accident of JT610. We are talking about the black box. Actually, the color is not black, you know. And yes, it's able to accommodate the tracking and the voice and all the recording is complete. But the point is that the duration of the black box actually lasts for maximum about 30 days. You see that a lot of effort has been put during the search of the black box of the JT610, and it is more than 1.5 months later that they found out it is actually about 30-meter deep under the crash area, but it is deep under the mud, you know, very cloudy area. That's why it makes it very difficult to find out. The next question is that when you find it out, how you are not actually ready to clarify directly to the public, because that issue is very sensitive. We need to actually analyze this first through, we call it as a KNKT. It's a kind of a security, national security aviation committee. You need to clarify that one, and then we need to pick the right statements, not to misleading to the public when they know the fact. That's why it takes months before they make announcement. Eventually, if you're talking about safety, it is the responsibility of every passengers on board, because that's very important. Okay, I think I just want to tell you, to share this initiative, because you cannot just let it very openly, very transparent about what's happening. You need to be very careful to let out this statement in order not to create further chaos, you know, to the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, and let's have a big round of applause for a great panel today.
This is the end of the panel discussions. Thank you for visiting us.
चलो